Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of T3PO Live, where we have an amazing show in store for you. Thank you so much for joining us. See a couple of you in the chat right there. And it looks like the pro show is just about wrapping up, so we'll prepare for the incoming wave from the pro raid. But hey, I love and I enjoy my time with all of you. No matter what the numbers are, honestly, because I just hanging out with you guys in the chat, along with these excellent fine panelists today. It is just absolutely incredible, and it really is a gift. Let's go ahead and have them on right now. We have Barry Place 28 returning graciously. Thank you so much for coming back for another great episode of T3PO Live. We have Nolan Thunder, and of course, the amazing Lou Wasserman's Ghost. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today.
I was basking on the shores of the lagoon there with Barry Place, I tell you. I told you I used to date one of the mermaids, right?
What? No.
Wait, yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, serious.
What happened?
Well, she did that before I met her, but yeah. Well,
was it a scaly relationship? Just kidding. Bad joke.
There's a piece of tail joke here, but I won't make it. Anyway,
well, it's an amazing story about the mermaids of that lagoon. Interestingly enough, they had the tryouts for that at the world famous Olympic-sized swimming pool at the Disneyland Hotel, which was a key feature actually that was touted by the Rather Corporation back at the time.
That they had an Olympic pool. That was a big deal in those days. So.
Oh, yeah. So
now it means there's 8 fat guys eating wafers and wine beside it. But anyway.
they had... It's amazing. They had women in fins, they gave them all prop fins and had them, do laps and swim there and just to kind of make sure that they can actually navigate the waters of the lagoon itself. But then they stopped the practice. 2 reasons. One, well, there is the famous story, the infamous story that maybe men, were jumping into the lagoon to try to get to the women on the shoreline. But from what I understand, it's more about the chlorine that was pretty strong in order to provide those great, clean, scenic views into the world under the sea, let's say. So very, very interesting, amazing, incredible history right here. Speaking of incredible history and everything surrounding the Disneyland Resort, we have a few updates here that we'll get to. Let's see here. Well, struggling with the tabs again. Oh, that's great. Here we go. Guys, I don't. This one kind of frustrates me. We have been talking about the kind of declining by degrees of Fantasmic at Disneyland recently. We talked about how, well, obviously, you have Murphy or the previous Maleficent Dragon as part of the finale sequence of this show that, that was, burned down horribly in a fire last year. The show was gone for an entire year, brought back this year to much fanfare. Unfortunately, the Dragon did not make its, amazing return as people, I think, were hoping for. I think people in the know kind of knew that wasn't going to happen, but, c'est la vie. They sold a myriad of dining packages. We did get the return of the Peter Pan sequence, replacing the Pirates of the Caribbean sequence, which a lot of people feel probably for the best. We've had some things that were, not great regarding this show, even despite the Dragon not being there. We've heard not only a B mode for that finale sequence, but a C mode where Maleficent isn't even raised at all. And now most pyrotechnics cut from Fantasmic at Disneyland as issues continue. This by Shannon Ace over there at Disneyland News Today, Walt Disney World News Today. Fantasmic returned in Disneyland in May, 1 year after the fire that destroyed Maleficent Dragon figure, but it has not been smooth sailing for the nighttime spectacular. The show was performed with limited pyrotechnics on Saturday, July 27th, following weeks of issues that included Mickey's finger fireworks misfiring. We talked about that. And rogue fireworks. Not good there. Before the show started, we noticed that 4 of the 6 fireworks barges on the rivers of America were gone entirely, Only the 2 center barges remain. Those removed include the barges that had rogue fireworks going off. Not good at all. Despite 2 barges remaining in the water, they weren't used during the show. Only pyrotechnics launched directly from Time Sawyer's Island and those on the Mark Twain riverboat. They didn't even use the barges or the pyrotechnics on those barges. I believe they have multiple functions. But guys, I mean, what?
But the good news is
Please.
they're going to bring Deadpool over from DCA to make dirty jokes during the show.
Oh, well, we'll talk
No,
about
I mean, I'm
all
just
of
saying,
that.
so much if we're going by
Standards
off
are
when
failing left and right all over the place, and it's a damn shame.
if we're going off of when Disney rides are breaking, he would have so much material. He'd be able to get a whole week off of Tiana in general.
It's a good point, actually. it's a fair point. Bob, what's been going on here? I mean, I've been keeping track with the story because Fantasmic is a key feature of this resort, key feature of this park. It's a paramount in spreading out the crowds and make sure and maintaining capacity for the entire park itself.
It's the show during which I formally proposed to my wife.
Oh, goodness gracious, that's amazing.
So
I did not know that story.
She knew it was coming, but even so.
Yeah.
I
I will say that, the show's been gone for a long time, and obviously, they've had some issues with some of the pyrotechnics, and obviously they're still using those barges, but like you said, they have multiple uses, not just for the pyrotechnics, but they're not shooting out the pyrotechnics from those barges, which is unfortunate. I'm not sure. I haven't heard from my source yet whether or not it's because, they're trying to figure out the issues before they start using them again. But it is disappointing to see that they have, obviously canceled some of the pyrotechnics. Now they're still doing all the ones on the island, which are great. And because to be honest with you, those are a little more fantastical than the ones that are in the barges down the water.
I don't disagree.
I think the thing is, though, is that a lot of people, at least the people who are seeing the show, they haven't seen it in such a long time that they're like, wow, this is great. I think some of them have forgotten that, certain pyrotechnics come up from those barges and whatnot. People like me who go all the time obviously have noticed some of that. And it is disappointing not to see that. Obviously, it almost seems like I know they're having issues, but are they using this issue as an excuse not to fire off fireworks to save money, or is it something that they're eventually going to work on and fix? We don't know yet.
And
so
is
that's
the management excuse, people have never seen it any different anyway, they won't care, which would be a real shame, but the kind of thing we hear sometimes from outside.
Who knows?
There is definitely a different mindset at Disney Resort ever since the 2020 and the closures and the mass firings and layoffs that occurred at the Disney Resort. They lost a lot of cast members, a lot of great crew all around. And when you change the culture that distinctly, well, maybe standards shift a little bit, and perhaps we're seeing a reflection of that. Like you said, Bob, They have been having pyrotechnic issues, so maybe it's related to that. But this is a Saturday night. Shouldn't we have resolved those issues? Shouldn't we be working overtime in order to give people who have booked these dining packages, sometimes months in advance, all that we could give them? And it's just, if you study Fantasmic, going back to the 1990s when it originally premiered back in the summer of 1992, you'll note that there was a lot more pyro than there is now. And they've been slowly whittling it back to not get any pyro from those, 6 barges. So it's disappointing. It's disappointing, for sure.
I remember, though.
Question.
I mean, pyro. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I remember seeing this show. It was the Disney World version, mind you.
Yeah.
Right before everything closed in 2020, and it was one of the highlights there. I think it's one of the greatest things you can do at Disney. Everything they did with the projecting onto the water, that just blew my mind. And seeing all the characters dancing with the boat and all that, it just was one of the most core elements you can have at the park that just symbolizes everything Disney and why it's for everybody and just the wonder and amazement that it is. We can't even, it's been a year? We can't even get a dragon anymore on this thing. How many things are going to be, I don't want to see a half-baked product. I mean, get some of the Godzilla suit people or something on it. I don't care. Get figure out how to summon a dragon. Just get me a dragon, dang it.
Well,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, it could be the pyrotechnics, but here's the other issue, and this is something I think you were going to get to in this article as well. But they don't just
Please.
talk about the pyrotechnics, but some of the barges they use for the characters that come around have been missing as well, one or two. And to me, that takes away from the show. So if you're going to take some fireworks away, I totally get it, especially if you're having some issues and stuff. But then, and who knows, maybe they, had characters that were sick and they, didn't have any backups. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. But when you start taking some of the characters away too on those barges, you only have 3 barges that come by, right? With Beauty and the Beast and Rapunzel and Flynn and etc. When you don't get to see, them, then you're like, oh, what's happening? What's going on? So you notice that a little bit more than I think you would notice the pyrotechnics. And it makes me wonder if something's happening where Disney's just kind of cutting back on some of these things and or not. I don't know.
Goodness gracious! I did not notice somebody popped up in the panel. I do apologize. The one, the only Lorena has graced us. Thank you so much for stopping by, Lorena. Very much appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad I could finally make the show.
It is perfectly
And that is
fine.
what you do when you're here. You make the show.
That's right.
Thank you.
I can't be understated.
Even though we know you are always ready to, you say, put on the show. It is nice when you're here to do it.
That's right here. I think I have.
Pay attention, it's Joe time.
That's the one.
There we go.
It's just it's so crazy how the reductions that have taken place here. Like you said, Bob, they have not had 3 barges for a little while now. I know that one of the barges has been missing. That also plays double duty for the monkey sequence as well at the start of that show. And Nolan, if you've only seen the Walt Disney World version, the Disneyland version is out of this world because it actually takes place along rivers of America. That is just fine and standard during the day, but really comes alive at night. Lorena, what do you think about Disney kind of, I don't know, at least at the Disneyland version of Fantasmic, they've been kind of whittling away on both the pyro, the maintenance, and so forth. What do you think about the show quality standards right now at Disney?
Well, at Walt Disney World, especially at the Magic Kingdom, it's very obvious how much they have cut back on some of the pyrotechnics that have been used. I remember much more boom going on than there has been of late. So the Happily Ever After show, which Disney has done way better, fireworks shows. They're okay, but again, nowhere near the way that they used to be. Another case in point, 4th of July. Usually the fireworks are insane for that, and this year they've only like about 7 minutes long, and that's it. Last night I was over at the studios, and they have a little evening show that's, let's put it this way, lots of projections and maybe a poof or 3 of fireworks. It is extremely underwhelming, especially for a park or a resort that you're paying so much money to get into.
Yeah.
It's insane. The fireworks at Disney or the pyrotechnics at Disney, they're the number 1 buyer or purchaser of fireworks in the world. They know what brings in people, and Happily Ever After, one of the reasons why they switched from Enchantment back to Happily Ever After the way they did so quickly is because they understand that it's really part of not only absorbing crowds, providing entertainment for crowds, but it's a big point of why you go to Magic Kingdom in the first place, why you stay as long as you do, in which they can get dinner packages off of you, and why you return to Walt Disney World Resort. That's how big these fireworks are for a lot of people.
The obvious question is, if they're willing to cut back on the show, are they willing to cut back on the dinner? Are they willing to cut back on, all I'm saying is I once knew the food and beverage director of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. You all know the hotel from Pretty Woman. right there in the middle of everything in the heart of Beverly Hills.
Right.
And when Wolfgang Puck took over food service at a famous hotel in San Francisco, my guy said, I would love to be able to do that. But if it ever failed, I can only lose my reputation for greatness once, and I can't afford to do that, even though it costs me more to keep up the standards I've kept here for all these years. And there's a
That's
lot to
exactly
that.
true.
There's a message there.
It's like
And there is a pier-shaped pinnacle of green in the middle of a lagoon next to a big building hotel over on the other side of town that is soon to be the base of another fireworks show. And I got to tell you, that one's not going to cut back.
I believe you're referring to what, Epic Universe?
Yes, yes.
And the fireworks that were just launched there. I think I have
Yeah,
some
that's right,
links to
there's
show
Fantasmic
that if I could. But Lorena, have you seen the fireworks actually go off in the Epic Universe area? I wanted to get your opinion on that. And
No, I totally missed that. But I did see someone posted video of them testing the fireworks, so I know exactly where that location is.
Yeah.
So they had a perfect view. Literally, their apartment complex is butts right up against Epic Universe property. I haven't seen Disney do fireworks like this in a long time.
Yeah, that goes back to the old days. We used to know a family that lived in Fullerton up on the hill, and we'd go all the way out there to their house for dinner just to sit in their backyard afterwards and watch the Disneyland fireworks from afar. And they looked like this.
The only thing missing right now, because this looks straight out of a 90s Disney World VHS, the only thing I'm missing here is, hi, I'm Michael Eisner.
well, that's funny. Well, you know what's new that the 90s maybe didn't have, at least at the theme park domestically? Nolan, what does that look like to you?
Looks like a Pokemon.
Is that Pokeball?
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah. Apparently, as part of this test firing at Epic Universe, they were testing out not only the launch point, but actually some specific shells. That looks like a Pokeball to me and everybody looking at it. And people will know that.
I've never seen. That will be a unique thing because you can't just go anywhere. Because you can find fireworks about anywhere at 4th of July. It might not be as good as like a Disney experience, but you can get some amazing fireworks show. Nintendo fireworks, even as much of a fanatic I am, I have never seen Nintendo, Pikachu, anything even close to a video game firework of Nintendo or any other brand anywhere. And it's going to be something you could see at Universal Studios. If I see a mushroom firework from Mario, I might literally die at the park because I'll be dying of happiness.
Well, there have been rumors that Pokemon will be incorporated to a Universal Park going back a couple of years now. We've seen some progress on the Universal Osaka front over there in Tokyo, but we've only gotten some rumblings of it actually making its way domestic. And folks, the hype for this is absolutely real. People are very, very excited to actually see it. If you see here, let's see if I can find it in this article. President and CEO of Universal Studios Japan LLC, J.L. Bonnier, and President and CEO of the Pokemon Company, a Japanese name, featured right here. And it is incredibly exciting to have the merging of both of these huge entities and really bring these IP to life. We know that there are some just incredible works of art when it comes to like Mario, for example, and bring that to these to a theme park or a 3D environment. And the rumor points to maybe The Simpsons over there at Universal Studios Florida being replaced by a version of the Pokemon attractions that Universal Osaka is getting. This is a huge development.
Did you see the story I posted about Singapore's Minion Land is opening in a year, and there are pictures of it at Universal. It's in the theme park back chat.
So
Well,
my guess is they're probably taking lessons that they've learned from putting together the Minions Land over at Universal Orlando.
Here, let's see if I can. There it is.
yeah, I would. Yeah,
There.
I could see that. Oh, here we go. We got it coming in the private chat. Thank you so much, Lou, for that. Let me just go ahead and see.
Because I
what
can
we
tell you
have
right
here.
now that Minions area at Universal Orlando is like constantly full of like kids and parents. It just basically prints money, pretty much, is what it does.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I've heard
They've
I've heard some
added
really
a-
good
a-
things. Go
they've
ahead.
got a
Minion
motion
Mayhem. Okay, so they're gonna have that.
Right. But then they've added this whole sort of midway area.
You know, it
and
looks
Despicable Me from the one in L.A. and then this.
like a combination of that Minions Funland that they have over there at Universal Studios Hollywood with the Minions Land that they have over there at Universal Studios Florida. That's a very interesting concept there.
There.
Oh, they have a. Oh, that's too funny. I'm looking at that ride.
Wow, wow,
and
wow.
A carousel that they talk about with the things moving in ways that are sort of reminiscent of that Super Duper one at Epic. I mean, I'm sure it's not as big and fancy as that, but they've learned and transposed some of those carousel lessons over to this, it seems to me. If you go back and watch it sometime with the narration and explanation.
Man, yeah, Universal Singapore looks like it is getting some investment. I know Universal Beijing is supposed to be getting a crazy amount of investment as they've linked up with the the government in order to facilitate that. We know that Osaka is getting some great stuff, and of course, Epic Universe 1 year away. On the Universal front, I mean, all signs point to great things in the near future. Wow. Okay, so they really incorporated quite a bit here. This is far more than any of the domestic parks have in
Right.
terms of a Minions presence. That's great. That is absolutely fantastic. What are we talking? Like, this is
They
what
say
now?
1 year away.
Probably what, a $7 to $8 billion franchise now. The Minions,
It's huge.
just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And
very
it's
cool.
merchable, unlike, as I've said before, Inside Out 2. Nobody
Yeah,
wants a
that-
plushie of anxiety.
I thought
That's
you were
the
gonna
thing
go
right there.
for. I thought you were gonna go for Princess and the Frog. I'm like, yeah, I see nothing but Tiana flying off the shelves daily.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that same facade. I'm just looking at it. The facade that was on the left. Part of
Yeah.
that is in Minions Land right now.
Right.
Right.
In Universal.
Right, and there are some of these facades in the Hollywood version as well.
Hollywood, yeah, exactly.
But
Silly
some of these
swirly.
attractions I've never seen associated with the Minions Land. It's really cool.
Yes.
I think nice. Actually show the some letters being
They
installed.
made a big point
That's
in the
cool.
narration here about this is all built in America and brought over here, and now they're setting them up and programming them and all that sort of thing. And I'm going, oh, isn't that nice that the tech stuff is coming from here to there instead of vice versa? So,
Well, you
It's
know,
refreshing.
yes,
There you go, right?
I'm all for it.
Speaking of merchable franchises and the incorporation of franchises into theme parks, I guess we have to talk about Deadpool and its not only its enormous success at the box office, but its incorporation into theme parks in a very questionable manner. We'll go ahead and get to coming to DCA. This was actually before the film actually launched, is when they announced this. This was July 23rd that they went forward with this. And this was a surprise to a lot of people because we never really thought we were going to get a character like this coming to a Disney theme park. We always kind of thought that, okay, well, there are certain properties you incorporate, and certain properties, you keep at arm's length. But apparently, we're incorporating Deadpool. And look, it's not to say that it's completely unwarranted. We know that Deadpool has been unbelievably successful at the box office. It's now crossed, I believe, $500 million and on track to cross $1 billion at the box office by the end of the week. You can actually see the tracking here by Luis Fernando there. what is it, 500 million by Tuesday, 600 million by Thursday, 700
And-
million by Friday, 800 million by Saturday.
Pro's
okay,
got a
Edwin?
very interesting video about how they're not counting several of the territories that are out there that haven't reported back in yet. And that
Really?
when they do, this will jump over the things they're saying it's behind on the all-time list.
Whoa.
I mean,
yeah.
some fairly major markets haven't reported yet.
It's interesting you say that because Disney actually came out and said that the initial weekends projections or weekends totals were actually larger than what was being reported. So there's definitely something going on here
Right.
in
Well,
terms of reporting.
it's just
Right.
late reporting from, I think I said it was 6, and it was some of them were small, but some of them were big.
Yeah.
If
Absolutely.
this one's worth 3 million and that one's worth 5 million, and before you know it, you add up to a lot of money, you know?
Sure. Absolutely. Also,
Very
two,
interesting video on that from Pro today.
Absolutely. China is apparently getting in the mix as well. We've not seen much out of them in terms of contributing to box office totals. It looks like they're joining in on the fun as well. Anyway, this is a huge performer for Disney and Marvel. I like some of the minor stories that are coming out right now. I guess Bye by NSYNC raises the top 20 on global Spotify.
And you know what gets me? I mean, of all of these movies,
Sure.
the Deadpool Wolverine thing is very verbal. It's very, very, very much Ryan Reynolds and all that fast, snappy chatter. And I wonder how well that translates into various languages, or if it is accurately translated because of various restrictions or attitudes. So the fact that it's successful anyway is based on the action regardless, but who knows?
I would
That's
think
just
you would.
full on power of NSYNC, baby.
Yeah.
Well, that's a fair point. But I would think that you would rewrite some of the dialogue in order to keep it maybe cultural relevant for the territory or market that it's actually being released in. But that's a good point, Lou. That's understated for sure. NSYNC and Backstreet Boys getting together in order to do a dance routine inspired by the film. That's kind of cool right there. I love this story though. Wesley Snipes. I don't mean to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen the film, and I'm sorry that if you have been spoiled. But if you don't want any spoilers, please go ahead and mute just for like 5 minutes and then come back. But Wesley Snipes says that he had moved on from Blade when talks for a fourth movie died. When Ryan Reynolds texted him 20 years later about returning in Deadpool and Wolverine, he originally thought it didn't make sense. I did not think it was possible. I didn't think that we would be able to pull it off. I didn't think that Marvel was into it. Disney was into it. And also because they had Mahershala Ali cast for the next upcoming version of it, I thought it didn't make sense to me. But when you get a call from Ryan Reynolds out of the blue after 20 years and go, okay, well, I got to take this call. Let's see about it. He told me they said, yes, it's a go. You're in. And we're in if you are. And so there's a great interview by Wesley Snipes actually talking about this. Very, very cool stuff there. But he was reincorporated. Very, very cool. There's a great line in the film, again, spoilers, folks, but he says directly, basically, like, I'm Blade and there's only going to be one Blade. And then Deadpool kind of looks at the camera and goes, kind of gives the head nod. I thought that was pretty fun from that film. But we're talking about Deadpool in the parks, and it's I was torn about this when it was initially included. You saw how he was being incorporated. It's like, okay, well, he's going to be a silent character. He's going to be a verbal character. Then we saw that Wolverine was going to be added into the mix as well. And it's like, okay, well, obviously he's a face character that would talk. So maybe Deadpool's going to talk as well. Turns out that he is. Oh, the chimichanga reference. Yeah. So they added a chimichanga at Rancho del Zocalo that has, the Wolverine scars on it, and then it's supposed to be blood dripping out. I thought that was kind of interesting right there. And they have altered his appearance a little bit in order to make him more park friendly. So you'll see that his famous 50 caliber handguns aren't actually featured. His Desert Eagles, they've been replaced by chimichangas. So I was like, wow, okay.
Really?
Yeah. Well, this is what I said right now. I was like, look, you're going to have one of the most profane characters ever put to celluloid, affiliated with extreme violence and mature humor, rocking dual katanas on his back and a myriad of knives as part of his in-part costume, but a couple of holstered pistols. That's where Disney draws the line. I thought that was pretty funny. Also, too, in the French version, they have him with mini French bouquets as well.
Oh, goodness. Stop.
Now, my question, when I've seen these clips of him making these, shall we say, iffy for Disney park thing, is this guy an actor working to a recording playing, or is he actually saying all this himself?
I think it's a recording. I think it is. I want to say it is. Usually the shows that are performed, and we should probably get to this as well, they announced a story time with Deadpool, not in the Hyperion Theater itself, but in the queue for the Hyperion. I thought that was funny as well. Lack of, cut down of entertainment, folks. What are you going to do?
I would have thought they'd have put this over where Doctor Strange was, but I don't know.
I wish they would put this next to like the Mickey Mouse meet and greet. It's like, Mommy, can I see Deadpool? No, we're just going to continue along. You're still pure. We're going to keep going.
Well, let's play a little bit of this audio for you guys so you can hear what story time with Deadpool is all about. Because I thought the jokes incorporated there, a lot of people were a little bit nervous. I thought the jokes incorporated here are pretty decent. So here we go.
My jokes are not outdated. They are hilarious and modern and unending, just like Splash Mountain. Too soon?
There you go.
And there's one where he mentions Kevin Feige or something, and the grinder one. Oh my God.
Yeah, we'll get to that one in just a second, right there. But they're also being updated actively following the announcement of Robert Downey Jr. being incorporated into the MCU, which we'll get into in a moment for sure. Well, there was this joke right here.
Then, out of nowhere, Iron Man came flying in screaming, saying, "Hey, take off that glove. Don't you dare take this sacrifice from me. I really don't want to be Iron Man anymore." In fact, I would rather be doomed than play Iron Man again.
So it's pretty good, right? I mean, it's like, wow, okay, that's not too shabby, right?
Let me ask you guys a question.
Please.
Do you think this would play in Orlando? Because I don't think it would. I think LA is such an industry-oriented town that they get all these jokes instantly because they're keeping track of this more than they do elsewhere.
Lorena?
Wow, that's like a two-pronged thing. One, no, that wouldn't really go over well. However, Universal has the rights to the Silver Age Marvel.
Oh, that's right.
So even if here's the thing: Universal, they could get away a lot better with doing it, but they're also better about writing the racy jokes that go over the heads of kids. So. Unlike Disney, and that's why it doesn't really fit in that particular park. It's like you want to put Deadpool in there, okay, but you do know who Deadpool is, right? You're not fooling anybody. The kids know he's pretty foul.
To your point, Marina, like Deadpool's always been such a, kind of a gray area, maybe a red area if you are a parent, especially of a, say, young boy or girl,
Yep.
It's a very complicated topic, and every kid growing up has different ages of which they maybe going teenagers or adults, like what age they're ready for some Deadpool exposure. That sounded wrong, but like being ready for Deadpool in their lives. And I think this would be fine if it's a limited time thing. It's been a big success and stuff like that. That's my question. Do we know if this is going to be like a permanent thing? Because I think if it was like long term, I don't think this would really fit the Disney brand and identity. But if it's just for like, I don't know, a week or two, if you don't like it, I feel like they can kind of walk away from it. But not to say what your point, whether it doesn't really belong or not, but I feel like it'd be fine if this is like a limited time ordeal. Do we know how long it's going to be? Oh, okay. There's the answer right there.
There you go. I was just
It is
about
for a
to
limited
bring it up.
time.
Go ahead, Bob.
But to me, I think this is something that I'm excited about because I like Deadpool and whatnot. I know that Disney is a very family-friendly park, but from what I can see and from talking to some of my other, streamer friends and talking on the Park Streamers podcast last night, because we were going over this in detail, it seems like the parents who were there with their kids knew what kind of, character Deadpool was, and the kids weren't, totally young, mostly, a little bit, older, but there's a couple questionable jokes that they did say that kind of goes over the heads.
Yeah,
of
let's.
kids.
And what if 2 days before they went to Disneyland and saw this, mom and dad said, no, we're not going to go see that movie. It's a little adult for you. And you go there and you hear these jokes, especially, and you say, well, what's the big deal? You brought me here.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why you might be able to do this at Disneyland because of the annual pass holder base. That's kind of more, maybe a little bit more tuned in.
Well, I wasn't even talking about the dirty stuff or borderline stuff. I'm talking about the inside the industry stuff. Is more a subject of awareness. I always tell the story about the first time my wife came to L.A. and we went to the movies, and at the end of the movie, she got up to leave, and nobody else in the theater did. And she was shocked. And I explained it to her. I said, everybody here knows somebody in the business. And they want to watch the credits to see if their friend worked on this one.
Nolan, you were going to say.
Oh, no, it's like, this was already a murky area I had thought about a lot because, in the past, I would say mainly the last decade, we've really streamlined a lot more R-rated superhero adaptions. We had, of course, the original Deadpool was like the big trendsetter. We had Joker a few years ago. We had the R-rated, I believe the R-rated Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. I believe that was R-rated as well. So we've been seeing a lot of, and I remember when Killing Joke came out, that was a pretty big deal that it was rated R, the animated adaptation of the iconic Batman story. So we've been dealing with more adult-aimed superhero properties for a while. And I think as time goes on, we'll get more and more to where that's kind of accepted from people who, grew up with that sort of thing and then they're having kids of their own. But what I really don't want to see Disney do is to get too comfortable with this idea. Because like I was saying when me and Lorena were talking earlier about this topic, it can be a limited time thing, but I don't want to see to where, hey, let's have 10 different R-rated movies as attractions at Disney parks. I think that could enter really bad territory. And if you go to a convention, say, with your kid, if there's a bin that's showing like some suggestive anime at a convention, maybe you can take your kid and just go walk away and just go to the next booth. When you see that every 10 booths, then you might be questioning, are you at the right convention with your child? Mm-hmm. And like right now, I think we're in an okay territory, but they do have to be careful with what they're doing, I think.
They do, because the last thing you want is, some, colored joke that goes off and is very, inappropriate. And then parents are like, well, wait a minute, I brought my kid here to Disneyland and all of a sudden we're getting this inappropriate joke. That's not cool. What's going on, Disney? I think that'll go over really, really bad. So I think they're skirting the line with a couple jokes there that I think eventually, and I'm sure they're going to finesse the show and they're going to, maybe add or take some things away. Most of it seems, fine and good and humorous, and I do love it. I got to tell you, seeing him ride in on a unicorn is hilarious.
I was just gonna bring that up, Bob.
Yeah, that is amazing.
According to California,
so funny.
On YouTube has the entire video. It looks like the recording of Storytime with Deadpool. Definitely check out Cordy in California, CORDI, to see that.
This did all of the shows. It's a marathon.
There we go. This is by Five Fires with the unicorn. The only issue I have with this is if you know how he utilizes the unicorn in the first movie, there's a context there. I'll just put it that way. And so I was like, I don't know. Are we going too far here? I'm not sure. I'm like I said, I'm very torn on it. Like Nolan said, if let's say you were to incorporate a very suggestive character from like an anime or a manga into the parks, would we be okay with that? Even if that character was made family friendly, even though it's associated with, those acts. It's this kind of almost moral dilemma here.
Well,
Also,
then
an
you'd have the
instance once.
doubling of the effect I said of, hey, Mom, how come I can't go to the movie? He doesn't seem so strange. You're so out there, as you said. But in the movie, he is. So I don't know.
Well, to be honest with you, I already got that because my daughter wants to see this, but she's technically too young to see Deadpool and Wolverine, and she's like, "Wait, he's over at DCA? I can go see him there?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not quite the same." And trying to explain to her, why and whatnot, and she's kind of like, "Okay." So I've already gotten that myself, and as a parent.
There you go.
But at the same time, I did explain to her, hey, she's not going to, get the same effect from the movie because the movie is a little bit different. However, there are some inappropriate things that probably won't be at the park. Oh, let's talk about the
Speaking
grinder
of
joke.
inappropriate things that are at the park.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I thought they were going to steer away from this, and they didn't. Let's go ahead and listen to what is going on here.
Here's Deadpool. What do we have here? Wow, we got the Disney Parks app, we got Instagram, TikTok, Tinder, Grindr. Wow, Mr. Stark, I love your new profile picture.
Yeah, I think that's one of the jokes that's going to be cut.
That's too far.
Yeah,
That really is too far.
Let's put it this way: if they could fire Bo for his site, this is not appropriate.
I have been seeing people who, how do I characterize them? People who you would think would be receptive to this. Even they are like pixie gestures, everything. Everybody's kind of like, "Oh, that's way too far. That's way too much for a theme park setting." Because you got to think about it. This is supposed to be escapist entertainment at the end of the day, and when you're taken out of it to that degree in such a profound manner, I think is it doesn't work on multiple levels. So I do hope they kind of alter that going forward because I think the general consensus is, and this is amongst everybody, really. This is kind of a unified thing. A little too far.
Yeah, I think it works for the movie, but not for the DCA.
Yeah, and the question is, somebody obviously approved this.
Yeah.
Somebody, this wasn't just a spur of the moment, a throwaway by this guy if he's talking for himself or by the recording person. This is something premeditated, pre-planned, that a bunch of cool kids at Disney said was cool. It kind of reminds me in a totally different context of when they put Bluey into the campgrounds and, oops, we don't own that. We better pull it out. It's like the inmates are running the asylum. Where's management?
Oh, I don't disagree at all. I think it's maybe they're testing the boundaries. Maybe they're trying to see what the reaction to the stuff might be like and how, if they should incorporate this stuff going forward. I don't think so. Even with shows like Aladdin, Bob, do you remember this back in the Hyperion?
Yeah.
The genie would have rotating sequences of jokes, and it never went this far.
No, and you got a chocolate lamp with mousse in it, so that took away all the sting of it.
That's fair. That's fair as well. Theme Park Casual, thank you so much for joining us. Hey kids, what's going on right there? Let me go ahead and get to just a couple of super chats right here while I have them up. Going Shogi with it looks like the 199. Let me go ahead and make sure I read this correctly here. But Disney isn't worried. Everything is fine. LOL. Yeah. It's diminishing standards. Still bringing in the money. It's all good. No worries about that. Let's not worry about our core audience and people falling off. Liberty Hall's cat with $2. Thank you so much. Disney, nothing to see here. Move along. Literally. Yeah. Disney. Come on. This is you not being in tune quite with your audience or with your product. I think there's a reasonable understanding of what the Disney theme park product is in the minds of guests. This is not being consistent with that either. So I think overall. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Bash. I was going to say, just to kind of add to that, another thing to keep in mind is that Disney corporate is headquartered in Burbank.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Burbank has their way of thinking. It's like, oh, it's going to be edgy. Don't worry. It's going to be great. It's going to create.
Right.
While
Right.
the rest of flyover country is like, what the heck are you thinking
Yeah.
with doing something like that? So I think Burbank's MO is it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Right. Yeah, and I would extend that to Team Disney Anaheim as well. Team Disney Anaheim, located right behind the Disneyland Resort. You know, they're
Yeah.
all in that LA area as well. And
These are the
obviously there's
people
been a
we
cultural
caught
shift.
on tape saying, "Hey, I'm being encouraged to put a bunch of things into stuff."
Right.
So and they're all still there.
It's I think the incorporation of Deadpool, I can see it really working, and there are times when it works very, very well, but we have to have those limits. We have to have those safeguards or bumpers on each side of the
Well, let's put it this way. We already heard over a year ago. We had a source that had a theater in what was it, Nebraska or South Carolina, who said people were calling the theater to ask if the Disney movie of that moment, which I think was Wish, was safe. If people worry that Disneyland isn't safe, Katie bar the door. Okay.
You make a great point there. It's a fantastic point. Even Marty has a 6-year-old. I know he's a little disappointed that he can't actually see this film with obviously a child. But he, I can see a little bit of apprehension from even introducing this to his kid. I know I believe he has made references to that in the past. Marty, I don't mean to speak for you, but I know it's like, hey, I just don't want to have that conversation with my child right now.
Yeah, and what happens when, if we can be prejudiced and say less responsible parents say, I don't give a damn, and those kids show up with the toys and stuff at school or on the playground and say, you haven't seen it? What's wrong with you? Why are your parents? Well, there's nothing wrong with it. And you have to go home and have that conversation.
And that's what it's like for the life of a child in general. I remember, I think a few years ago that I didn't follow it closely, but I seem to recall Deadpool actually appeared, and I believe it was the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Apologies if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he did show up, and that must have been interesting because then you have to have a discussion with your kid where it's like, hey, certain Deadpool stuff might be okay, but certain stuff, you start having to be an older age to present it, and it gets a little bit murky, and you have to start having some more difficult conversations with your kid, and it makes you wonder. That comment by Marty really made me think about how it seems like as the world progresses, there's so much stuff that seems to be getting implemented because brands are going after markets that are younger and younger because they've done things that have kind of painted their market in a bad way by either wanting to no longer associate with their consumer base, or in other ways they've made their consumers so mad that they don't want to support them anymore. So now they're like, hey, if we aim our products at those that are younger and more vulnerable, say Silicon Valley, like Instagram going after people that are way too young for beauty standards, then they don't have to worry about as many consequences. Well, there are consequences, and it's called the parents. And maybe it really shows that if we're having issues where we need to have these difficult conversations with kids, maybe we need to have a world where these are less of things, and when they get older, there's more fun things we can tell them about. And there's nothing wrong with having, say, your Deadpools and stuff for those at older audiences, but maybe we're in a situation where we really need to have something that's more acceptable and not just going to be the moment they get exposed to something. They're not just, it's going to be like 20 years ago where it's like, oh, what you're seeing is just something that's way older than what is aimed at you. It's, once I introduce this topic to you, here, let me tell you about the 4 different political opinions on said topic.
Well, the other thing is, of course, that the people promoting this haven't got these problems because they don't have kids.
True.
That's so true.
Not to mention they're hiding behind all that money they're making from it. So it's like, hey, not my problem.
It goes to, let's say you have a kid who's into swimming and man, she wants to be an Olympic champion. So you're watching the Olympics and you see that opening ceremony. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
And why did people have a visceral reaction to the opening ceremony? Partly because the opening ceremony should be a family-friendly event, or at least you would think it was. And so
The last good one was James Bond and the Queen.
Yeah.
And that's what, 12 years ago already.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing it, it's like, whoa, like what is this? You know, I didn't expect to have this conversation with the kids in a theme park setting or watching the Olympics. It's supposed to be a unifying event. I think that's where a lot of this reaction is coming from, and appropriately so. But we're going to switch gears
You
here
look good
just
on
a
the bridge,
little
though,
bit.
over there. That all works.
Yeah.
We gotta look at the supports on the bridge falling apart. But anyway,
Yeah,
Was that arena?
I was just about to say. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say that costume looks amazing. Like, at least, like the standards of what I expect from Disney are there. I thought the show stage, I love the little scuff marks on it. It's kind of more of like with seeing so many inadequate like theme park rides and really taping up damaged stuff or lackluster replacements. It's nice to see something new that's actually like,
well,
looks
that's
straight
why
out
I
of the
said
movie.
don't
I love
look
it.
too closely at the supports on that bridge, because we've seen the pictures of all of that falling apart. Anyway,
Yeah.
What we're missing is the after photo where Deadpool's in the water.
Well, that's one for sure. Look, A for effort when it comes to the costume. The chimichangas, whatever. We can't be Desert Eagles, but okay, that's fine. That's fair. But you know what we can do? We can get maybe a new union contract. So that's the transition, folks.
Yay.
Scott,
Segue of the century
Scott,
goes to VashSky.
Thank you. Thank you. Disneyland Resort cast members ratified their 3-year contract with Disney late Monday. The new agreements demonstrate the value of cast members' role and lead with significant wage increases, including longevity and premium pay, Disneyland officials said in a statement. And we have a little bit more information from Deadline here. Disneyland workers vote to approve new contract, averting strike threat. And there's
by the way, the Hollywood Teamsters made a deal too. So now the only impending strike is SAG against the voice actors for animation.
Yeah,
Who cares?
yeah. I saw a little. Well, I saw a little voice acting. I think on the video game level as well, where
Video games. Pardon me. But see, there's the question, isn't it? Everything's resolved. They got a deal. Everybody's happy, or at least as happy as they can be. But we should see a huge influx. We should be seeing more production and more shows starting and more shows at the parks, and all the stuff they cut back should go away because now we've made a deal. Surprise, it ain't happening. Surprise, it didn't happen, and it isn't going to happen because the model is broken.
But aren't you surprised, Lou, that they have been negotiating this for since April? And only now did they really kind of sit down at the table?
Because they
and
really
iron
told
this
them
out?
we're really going to strike right in the middle of your really summer with your D23, and they got the message.
There you go.
You know, one thing I've learned from all the negotiations I've ever been in, including movie negotiations, the person who is willing to say no and walk away wins, invariably. And I mean, it may be a sad lesson, but there's a lesson there for all of us in negotiating whatever it is, we're negotiating.
To be honest, I think that when this whole thing was coming up and they were voting to strike, and I was kind of questioning the whole thing. I mean, my human resources or background, as well as, my experience working with labor relations, I was kind of like, okay, I don't get why they're voting to strike yet, because really, from what I hear from the contract, it really wasn't that bad. And so, yes, they voted to strike. And then, of course, we heard the rumors of when they might strike. But ultimately, I'm not surprised that they didn't and that they came to agreement. I thought they would. It was just a matter of time before they do that. This is a typical type of union contract where, hey, they start negotiating before the end of the contract. It didn't work out. They continue to negotiate after the contract ends, and they usually try to work something out. And usually they do. Only every once in a while do we, have these strikes that actually pop up. So I'm not surprised they didn't come to an agreement. I'm happy to hear that they did. But like you were starting mentioning there, Vash, or maybe it was Lou. They're probably not going to change anything right now. Things have what's already happened for the summer is happening. Maybe we'll see some changes come the fall, or maybe for next summer. But we're not going to see any major changes right now because they just are resolving this contract issue.
Let's get into what the agreement details are, it's saying a 3-year contract, which is typically the case. So going till what, 2027 there. The biggest wage increases ever is what the unions are actually reporting. Most cast members will be receiving a $6.10 over 3 years increase. That's huge, folks. I mean, that's a lot
And
of money.
it's really more than that because it compounds. It's all these 3-year contracts are a percentage up every year of what it is that year. So when you've gotten X percent in year one, X percent in year Y is based on that year one bump as well as what the original was. So when you see these numbers, know that they really get bigger as they go along.
They do. Actually, MyChat has a pretty good breakdown of what the increases are and what the longevity and pay increases and so forth are. You can kind of see that on your screen right now. It's available at micechat.com there. And look, the cost of living in the LA area is just so incredibly high.
It's going to go higher than whatever they're getting. You know that.
Oh, absolutely. No question
and
about it.
taxes are higher
Yep.
than most
Yep.
everywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, it's theme park casual with the chat of all time here. Let me see if I can bring it up. I wonder if my magic key is going to be more expensive when it comes to renewal. Oh yes.
I'm putting on
Oh,
my
yeah.
NCIS hat and hitting your head and saying, "You think, DeNozo?"
Oh, yeah. They're so expensive now. I'm looking at like when I renew my annual pass next year. I'm just like, let's see what's the next
you know
cheapest
what,
one down.
Leanne? Yours is always going to be cheaper than ours, unfortunately.
This is true.
Yeah.
As are your taxes.
Yep. That's true too. Well, that's interesting because so taxes are incorporated into anything you buy at Disneyland Resort, but they're not incorporated in Florida. That's interesting.
No, but I'm saying the tax on your income that you're using to buy it is higher.
Oh yes.
too.
Oh,
I don't
it's all
miss it.
going up.
I mean, I remember years ago
I don't miss it.
doing a show at CBS Studios Radford, and their tax form, unlike everybody else's, because CBS, of course, was based in New York, had a blank space for a city tax, which the city of New York had an income tax. I said, "What? Are they crazy? That's insane."
Philadelphia
But,
does too.
Yeah, now they
Oof.
do, exactly.
Gotta get out of those.
All for
places.
the joy of living where it's more expensive to live in the first place. That makes a lot of sense.
Minimum base wage rate of $24 an hour in 2024. That's
Wow.
interesting
Hey,
because
somebody get out your calculator. How many employees were affected by this? Was it 14,000?
14,000
Times $24 an hour.
Yep.
And you wonder if your ticket's going to go up? Or the
Oh,
cost
yeah.
of your chimichanga?
So
or
think about it. If
your
everybody's getting
Yeah.
if everybody's getting a $6 increase, right? And we're doing 14,000, let's say 8 hours of time right there. For each day is a little over $500,000
there you go.
just in labor. I mean, it's,
You know
it's a
those fireworks?
considerable increase.
Can we say Mickey Holt Sparkler show ends?
Now I know why there's so many entertainment cuts. Yeah, exactly. This is a massive increase. You'll note that. I mean, they had to compete with like fast food workers, for example, right? If they're getting 20, and I could just show up at McDonald's 5 minutes before my shift, clock in, and and that's that, and I clock out. Versus what it takes 2 hours to get from your car to your position at Disneyland Resort property.
Unpaid.
A lot of people are going to take that 20, and they were starting at like I think 1950, I believe it was revealed at the Orange, what is it, the Anaheim City Council meeting when going over Disneyland Forward. 24 base rate. That's huge, right there. Historic longevity increases for senior cast members. That's kind of what that breakdown was right there. Again, you can see that on your screen. Attendance policy and sick leave improvements that give cast members more opportunities to attend to personal issues without fearing discipline. This was a big deal because we've gone over it before, but just to give you a brief history for the purposes of this segment. Essentially what happened was back in I think it was 2022, Disney announced a huge change of their attendance policies and how you can actually call for time off and so forth. Previously, it was a very flexible system, like a points-based system. Then they went with an hourly system that was not flexible almost at all, and that was really it was a big cultural shift because a lot of people who actually work at Disneyland Resort, they have a second job, or they go to school, or they take care of loved ones and so forth. And so that flexibility was just a no-go for a lot of people. This new contract seeks to remedy that, because I know that was a big point of contention with the unions and so forth. So that's a big one right there. And then new premiums for cast members. But Lou, do you see one that's missing from this list here?
When what?
What do you one detail that they were trying to fight for? We got fair wages. We have a fair
that
attendance
whole thing
policy.
about surveillance and by the way, whoever, I forget, was it NLRB or EEOC or who they listed that complaint with? That doesn't go away. That doesn't go away.
No, that's
once it's
staying
there
on right
in the
there.
government docket, they've got to at least investigate it and come up with a resolution. So.
Oh, sure. In the original article about this was July 22nd, of these 14,000 cast members who voted to authorize a strike, you'll see right here that the union, representing 14,000 cast members at Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, Downtown Disney, and Disney Hotels, entered into negotiations with the company on April 24th, asking for what they say are fair wages, a fair attendance policy, seniority increases, and safe parks for cast members and guests. For some reason, I didn't see that safety part of it really emphasized there. I thought that was a little weird. That seemingly has dropped off, and it's all fine.
We're much safer when we're better paid. We are. We can buy better shoes to stand up in, and we can go to the gym so that pulling the lever to launch the ride vehicle is safer. And I'm not distracted by my other job when I'm making the candy. And so I don't contaminate it with cleaning fluid or something. I don't know.
Now I know why they. Now I know why you did a little bit of some of these contract negotiations. not to reveal who you are, but that's hilarious. I guess things do get safer when you get paid more. So there you go. The union had a big statement talking about just about everything associated with this contract right here. I'm trying to find the actual PDF document that goes into the specific details, but that's kind of your overview right there. Seems like crisis averted. I believe there is still... Yeah, no.
There's some DCA contracts and other contracts coming up, but they'll get the same.
Right, September 30th.
They'll get the same deal because they want to make everybody the same deal so that they're... it's a good news, bad news story. For Disney, it's good to be confirmed that we don't have any more problems. The bad news is if you establish that precedent of all these contracts being the same, then whoever gets whatever they get first goes to everybody else too, and that makes it a bigger price tag than it looks like.
Also, actors, equities,
we were calculating these 14,000. What about the other? I think it's 8,000 at DCA that weren't included in this, and somebody else somewhere else, and they're all going to get the same deal. They have to.
Also, Equities Union, I know the actors who have speaking roles, they get paid a rate that's much higher than your average cast member. Obviously, their pay has to go up.
Well,
DCA
but that's probably through
fine.
AGVA. AGVA, but for those who don't know, is the Association of what is it? Guild or Dramatic Variety Artists. It's the actors union for live shows. Okay.
Yeah. So it's all of that and more. I'm sure a lot of that stuff is happening behind the scenes, but I am pretty sure Burbank made the call on this and said, you get this done because we have a bunch of high profile events coming up. We can't have this looming over our heads. And the election. That's right. Rightfully so. And we know there's a lot of political stake there for sure. But I know somebody has to depart our amazing panel that we have
couple
here.
Of somebodies, unfortunately.
Yeah, a couple of somebody's, unfortunately.
All right. Well,
we're the couple.
20.
Where are we going, Barry? Where are you taking me on our date? No.
Well, you're in a whole nother state, so I don't know about you.
Well, I know, but Deadpool said it was true, so we must be true. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, everyone,
state of confusion is where I am.
I would love to stay, but unfortunately, I do have other commitments, so I have to leave a little early today. But Vash, as always, thank you for having me on the show every single week. You can find me right there at BarryPlays28 on my YouTube channel, as well as all my social media channels. So that's Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and X. Also, you can also find me at the Park Streamers YouTube page. We do a podcast every 2 weeks on a Monday, and we just announced last night, which I have it there in the private chat if you want to share it. There, Dre, we actually just launched our very first website. It's parkstreamers.com, and you can go there. We're probably not going to have daily content right now. We just have some blog posts, but definitely come check it out, have some fun on our site, and then come join us every 2 weeks on a Monday. If you guys want to, oh, there it is right there. Very, very cool. And you can see it's me, Cordy, California, and Theme Park Casual. So thank you so much for sharing that. Also, if you guys want to come hang out with me, I'm actually streaming quite a bit this week. I'm going to be at Disneyland tomorrow night. I know Theme Park Casual is going to be there as well, so you can check him out. I will also be at Knott's, whatchamacallit, I can't even think what it's called, Knott's Summer Nights this coming Saturday night, which should be a lot of fun. And then I'll be back in Disneyland with my daughter before she unfortunately goes back to school. We're going to spend one more evening and night together at Disneyland before she has to go back. So come join us, have some fun, and as always, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
Well,
thank you so much, Bob, for
you're having
us.
much more fun than I am. I'm just going to go rest because pollen has hit the south and it's wiped me out, I got to tell you. But we have, I don't know what's the next genre, guys, here. Vash, I forget which one you're getting ready to unload on the people.
Yeah, I should have probably looked it up more.
Well, whatever.
But
as people may or may not know, I do this thing called the Genre Guys with Hangry Tables and Lorne Connor. And we do them first run as member perks for the pro show. Last one of those that went up was the wonderful movie Airport. And I think the next one's going to be one of my favorite offbeat westerns, Alvarez Kelly. One of those shows with an actual theme song at the beginning that you can sing along with, as I indeed have been known to do. But then 3 months later, they wind up here for One and All. And so there's that. And then, of course, Vash and I every Sunday dive deep into the rigors and secrets and otherwise fun of Hollywood. So that's at, 2 o'clock Sunday, but we might be moving it around. We haven't decided. But so far, so good at 2 on Sunday, live, Eastern time.
I agree. Let me see if I can get some graphics up. I don't have it right now. But, oh, no, I do. There we go. That was the last one that was going to was on this channel. Hercules, which is a
too.
Great episode, fantastic film, but even a better panel covering it. Very, very cool. It looks like, I'm just looking it up right now, A Bridge Too Far, it seems,
which happens
is
to
going to be
be
the next one.
A marvelous, wonderful movie about a very true event and pretty accurate, surprisingly accurately done. For those who don't know, that's Operation Market Garden, which was Monty's idea on how to end the war by Christmas. Let me tell you something I've learned from studying history and from watching home renovation shows. If you say you're going to get it done by Christmas, you're not.
That's good. Good advice.
But that's the ultimate all-star war movie of that era, with everybody from Robert Redford to Elliot Gould to, well, all the great British actors. And it's a lot of fun. And it's a great movie and also a wonderful score. You know, the one thing that I keep harping on that really bugs me about YouTube is that we can't share the music from all these various things with you, but we encourage you to go look at them. In fact, there's a YouTube channel, guy named Soundtrack Fred. I think he's based in Germany, and he does like 10, 15-minute suites of the music from every movie you've ever loved for the music. And that's a good place to go. I'll give you that as a tip. Anyhow,
Lou, you've had a lot of time with the industry and stuff. Can you please tell everyone on the Hercules box art to actually look at the camera? Because they're looking about every single direction except the camera right now.
oh, well,
fantastic point.
You know, I'm a director. I get paid for making decisions like that. So
exactly.
When they
Tell
can
them to do
afford
their job.
well, if they can afford to hire me, then I'll tell them what to do. But otherwise, I leave it to others. It's part of the deal. So I signed my right to kibitz away when I joined the guild, which was a good thing. But I actually have a card in my wallet that says I'm a director, you know, so.
Well, there you go. I love that. Well, Lou,
Of course,
Bob,
I have
thank
one
you
that says I'm a member of a frequent smoothie club, probably somewhere too. My wallet is so full of junk, I don't know what it is. But anyway,
Too funny.
Smoothie
George
director
Costanza
coming to
from,
Netflix this
Seinfeld.
summer.
All right. Well, we'll see you later. Bye, everyone. Have
all
a
right.
great day.
Good night,
and
everybody, and,
see you next week.
guys.
and thanks for being here, and thanks for supporting us as you do so well. Truly.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you,
See
Lou.
you later, guys.
Very much appreciate
Bye,
it.
guys.
Take care.
Thank
Take rest.
you.
Say hi to the families for me. Alrighty, here we go. I usually have a button sound. There we go. There we go, right there. But the crew, even though it is a little bit smaller, it's tighter. It's more focused, and I love each and every person on the panel right now. That is for sure. And you for the viewer at home for sticking around and watching us. Thank you so much for that. We got to get into probably the biggest news of the previous weekend right here. Somebody has returned to one of the biggest franchises of all time, that being Marvel, that being Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. This is huge news. Now, if you've been following That Park Place and the That Park Place network, somebody named WW Pro or any of his compatriots there on the That Park Place network will have told you that this has been a rumor for quite some time. They wanted to move heaven and earth to kind of get the band back together again because, well, it is very clear that Marvel, without some key players like Robert Downey Jr. or even the Russo brothers or even Stephen McFeely, it hasn't been going all that well. So they did pay the big bucks in order to get Robert Downey Jr. back on board. It was recently revealed just how much they were spending in order to get some of these players back right here. We do know that the Russo brothers are getting at least $80 million in order for their two directorial jobs connected to Avengers. It is Doomsday and Secret Wars. Now, you'll note that this was the Kang Dynasty. Well, it looks like the Kang Dynasty is no more. They have moved completely from that storyline. For one, Quantumania wasn't very successful. It kind of set that whole thing up. But two, the actor who played Kang, well, he unfortunately is now associated with some things that aren't safe for YouTube. I'll put it that way. And well, they have moved on from him, which wasn't entirely surprising. It's just kind of sad to see how that whole situation transpired, let's say. I'll put it that way. But it does look like they are headed in this new direction with Robert Downey Jr. playing not Iron Man, not Deadpool either, but Dr. Doom. And it's got a lot of people kind of scratching their heads. Lorena, I kind of wanted to ask you, what were your initial thoughts and reactions to this? How'd you feel about it? Does this, I don't know, make you, any of these announcements make you intrigued to give, the MCU your money going forward?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Vash. I'm on two minds when it comes to this announcement. The comic book lover in me, the MCU film lover in me is not impressed at all. Thinking, okay, so you're going to go from killing Tony Stark in Infinity War and then bring him back in Endgame to basically have him die again. So now you're going to do this multiverse kind of thing, variant, I don't know, to bring him back. It's, to me, it does not intrigue me. It doesn't interest me. I love Robert Downey Jr. to death, but this just seems, it doesn't interest me. I think it's a cop out. However, if I put on my studio executive hat, it's, hey, our movies pretty much have been sucking butt in the MCU. So how can we best do that? When were we making the most money? Okay, So, all right, we'll try to get Robert. You want to come back? You want to come back? Yeah, I'll come back, but I'm not working with a crap director. So why don't you see about getting the Russo brothers back? Okay, we get the Russo's brothers back. You'll do it. Okay, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That's my studio head hat. Will it make money? Yes, absolutely. You'd be crazy to think that it will not make money. Is it going to be a quality film? That remains to be seen. So, as a true comic book head, I'm not impressed. I think it's the worst move that they could make. But then again, if I'm a studio head and Disney is not making the bucks like it used to on a consistent basis, I can see why they would do this.
I really don't disagree with that sentiment. I have more to expand, but Nolan, I'm going to go ahead and give you an opportunity to react to this. What do you think about this? Do you agree with Lorena's points? Do you think this is a good move? Robert Downey Jr. coming back. It's big news regardless. What's your thoughts?
I'm pretty similar with her thoughts, and more in the regards that I don't like that Robert Downey Jr.'s character as Tony Stark has just been such an anchor point, not in a negative way, but he's basically been the backbone and the groundwork of all of the MCU. I couldn't even get a brand new Spider-Man trilogy without it telling me like every 20 seconds just how amazing Iron Man was. Like literally, he was all over that first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. When you have a character as grounded as that, I think it's not a great move to have him coming in and playing another character. Now, if this is supposed to be somehow Tony Stark survived and he, I don't know, his just somehow fell into a black hole and it got warped into Doctor Doom or something, super comic booky like that. Okay, maybe okay. Would it be stupid as nails? Yes. Would it be like a comic book? Let's be real. Yes, it would be. But if they bring him in and he's just playing a different character, like this is an Austin Powers movies, I mean, you can do it. You can do actors played by the same characters played by the same actor and play it straight, play it seriously. Star Trek: The Next Generation did that with Brent Spiner, and however, usually he was playing characters that were already connected to his core character. Tony Stark's face is all over this thing. Even in the recent Deadpool movie, not to go into any spoilers, they were still harping and fanboying over the legacy of Iron Man.
Yep.
I just think
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden, if they were to make a new Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire, they decide, hey, let's bring back Willem Dafoe, and we already killed off the Green Goblin, so let's have him come back and play the Vulture or something like that. His face is just too iconic with what could arguably be the main character of the series. Now, if they want to do something fun with this, like it actually is Tony Stark who becomes Doctor Doom, then literally the main protagonist has become the antagonist. That could work. It would be dumb, but it could actually be really refreshing and creative. Just bringing him back for show power to play a popular character, I don't think that from a fan perspective is going to get me hyped. I love the idea of revamping Marvel, bringing in Doctor Doom. I even love the idea of seeing Robert Downey Jr. again. But I just don't think this game plan is foolproof, and they're already committed to it now, and I just really hope that, I mean, they managed to thread the needle with Deadpool. I hope they can do it here.
Do you think that the way they did that in Deadpool, bring back an iconic character like Logan or Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in the way that they did following Logan's triumphant sacrifice, do you think that may have been kind of a test to see the audience's reaction, bringing back a variant of that same character, what people might think? Because that moment from Endgame where Tony Stark sacrifices himself is so iconic. You obviously don't want to dilute that in any way, but at the same time, you want to have your cake and eat it too, in the form of bringing back.
They always like having their cake and eating it too at these big board meetings. And in fact, I think cake is the only item they order at these meetings. But
I'll add
I just-
something. I'll just
Go
add
ahead.
like an additional line, and yes, it is somewhat of a spoiler for Deadpool and Wolverine, but honestly, should have watched it by now. For Deadpool, you should have seen it by now. It's just sorry, not sorry. When Deadpool tells Wolverine, "You're gonna be working till you're 90,"
Yeah.
that is just right here. Robert Downey Jr. is going to be working for Disney till he's 90.
Well, especially if you don't establish characters that can, live on and or maybe not fill the shoes, but at least provide a presence for which people are intrigued to even give these movies a chance. They just simply haven't done that. All of the characters they've introduced in a post, I don't know, Captain America, Iron Man world haven't been all that successful. So it's like, let's go back to the well, but not understanding kind of what made these original characters as successful as they were, and really not really attempting to launch any characters of their own. It's quite fascinating. But do you think they were laying the groundwork for something like this with Deadpool, and just kind of seeing how people would take to it?
I think it wound up being that way. They already tested. I want to say they tested the waters pretty much. They put it out there in plain sight with Blade coming back. Okay, in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Right.
Then the beginning of the film where Deadpool is having his interview with with Happy, take note to what it is that the camera focuses on while he's talking. It focuses a lot on Tony Stark. It's like, well, why? I'm just like, that seems, if it's just Happy and there's all that in the background, okay, fine. But they made it a point to focus on those things. So I don't know if this was a case that maybe they went back into reshoots and says, hey, guess what? This might be coming up. So what can we do to kind of drop it in there, but not really make it too obvious, but, kind of throw that in there. So yeah, I think that they were landing, putting the groundwork for this, but it looks like Ryan Reynolds did the most of it. And they just dropped the Easter egg in there for this, because if they didn't, why would they pull this stunt at San Diego Comic-Con?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, it's worth asking that question. I'll tell you what, to give people an understanding of what Lorena's talking about, if you haven't seen the film already, which you should go see this film. There is a moment in which Ryan Reynolds' character, Deadpool, without the costume or getup, this is kind of, in the rising action of the film here, he is having a conversation with Happy in the offices. I believe it's some kind of Stark facility of some kind, and it's literally like Iron Man's office kind of come to life with all kinds of references from the Iron Man films. For example, like in Iron Man 2, that kind of like that weird sculpture thingy that kind of moves and stuff like that. That's like on one of the shelves. I believe he has a conversation with Pepper Potts, and he's like, okay, move this whole thing. That's a reference in that scene. So they really want to include many references to Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man or Tony Stark in that film. Definitely laying the groundwork for something, and it all kind of culminates to this moment right here. It makes a lot of sense, Lorena. I like your point there. But speaking of, let's go ahead and get to just how much that the studio may have given up in order to make this happen. This comes from Variety. Behind Robert Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers' mega Avengers Paydays by Tatiana Siegel. After a bruising year, Marvel is returning to the very things that worked in the past. That goes without saying, that's for sure. That means reuniting with franchise crown jewel Robert Downey Jr., as well as the Russo brothers, who directed the two most successful movies for the studio, being Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Also, too, Stephen McFeely, the writer for Civil War, Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame, he's coming back as well. Kind of part of that duo that wrote some of those great films right there. But bringing back key members of the old gang won't come cheap. Sources say Marvel is plunking down $80 million for Anthony and Joe Russo to direct Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and significantly more for Downey to tackle uber villain Doctor Doom in the two tentpoles. The Russos' deal doesn't include back-end compensation, but it does contain performance escalators that kick in at the $750 and $1 billion thresholds. Huge. The brothers will also produce the films via their Agbo banner. That marks something of a departure from Marvel, which typically doesn't work with outside producers, or preferring to keep them in-house. That's a very interesting point. For Downey, who helped catapult Marvel into a money-printing machine thanks to his turn as Tony Stark in the first Iron Man in 2008, his deal also is filled with perks that include private jet travel, dedicated security, and a whole, quote, trailer encampment for the newly minted Oscar winner. Downey took home this year's Best Supporting Actor honors for his role in Oppenheimer. Goes on to say that Downey is by far the highest paid member of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and has pulled down anywhere between $500 to $600 million over the course of the 4 Avengers films featuring Iron Man. That is insane. That is crazy. That is a lot of money right there. And so, look, you wave a big enough check around, I can kind of see why Robert Downey Jr. might be convinced to return to the role even after his amazing Oscar win in Oppenheimer.
Route he's going, he might have enough money to buy Star Wars.
That's a fair point, especially at its current market value.
They're going this way.
But it's interesting. I heard that. We look at Deadpool's success and we think that's huge. It's a huge win for Disney, and it is. But we remember that decision was actually during the Chapek era, and from what I understand, one of Chapek's few moves that he actually made while at the CEO level. From what I understand, you got to think about his background, right? He comes from consumer products. Think about how many bad movies came out in the time, that don't get much press, but stuff like John Carter, and folks, when I say bad, I just mean bad performing movies, right? John Carter. There's a couple of others that I'm thinking of, but when you're in the consumer products division, you have to move that merch and you have to make those deals with those third-party licensees, and so you kind of get a sense of what works and what doesn't. Chapek, being a consumer products guy, is like, look, Deadpool works. Let's go ahead and throw some Wolverine in there, and that makes a lot of sense, and it did. And we were seeing the box office from that, and I think he was also under the impression that, look, if the MCU is not working right now, one way we can make it work is throwing a huge check in front of Robert Downey Jr., maybe some Russo brothers, to get this thing done. And so I think this deal's been in the works for quite some time, even stemming back from when Bob Chapek was actually the CEO. And honestly, if you're lacking the storytelling prowess of the past, and if you're lacking the kind of characters that made these things really work, it's not the worst decision in the world.
I was just to add to that. It's like you
Please.
can have, the Russo brothers. Like I Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Oh my gosh, that was just like freaking amazing. But what my concern is, and of course this remains to be seen, what are the screenplays going to be like?
Yeah.
Is it going to be very superficial? Just, hey, we get to see or hear Robert Downey Jr., or are they really going to be digging deep into the comic book lore and coming up with something that we didn't expect? That's going to remain to be seen. So they've got a lot ahead of them writing on this. And that first movie of the two needs to knock it out the park, because if it doesn't, I don't see people really hanging around to see the second one.
Agreed on that. And the importance. Sorry, go ahead, Vash. Go ahead.
No. Please,
Okay.
Nolan. Go ahead.
No, just on regards to those upcoming Avengers movies, even if the second movie's new logo kind of looks like the Flaming Hot Cheetos logo, there might be some promise there. But what's going to be really jarring, because the biggest thing I keep thinking of whenever I see, you know, all these Comic-Con pictures, all the headlines with Robert Downey Jr. coming back, I just keep thinking of this scene, of the idea, because who out of all the next era of Avengers that were supposed to take over, when you got like Black Panther, which that obviously didn't happen, you had Captain Marvel, that obviously didn't work out. Who's the third one? That would have been Spider-Man. It's gonna be really weird seeing Tom Holland's Spider-Man meeting this Doctor Doom. Like, with all the connection, like, especially because, you know, in these movies, they never like having these characters ever wearing their masks. Is the audience going to be able to take this seriously? Which I know it's a comic book movie, but, you know, eventually that's going to happen, because I'm thinking about how these Avengers films are going to project themselves, and I'm assuming the main star of the film is probably going to be Tom Holland as Spider-Man as far as the hero side goes. They're, of course, going to be selling Doctor Doom as, like, much like they did with Thanos in the Avengers movie, as, like, the main character. But if you have to think about the main protagonist, the one all the kids are going to be getting behind, all the audience and all that, it's probably going to be Tom Holland Spider-Man. And I know that on Pro's channel, he's talked before about those leaks and rumors saying that it could be Hugh Jackman and Tobey Maguire, like Wolverine, Spider-Man, perhaps leading the younger Avengers, if I'm remembering that correctly. But we know in some ordeal, Tom Holland Spider-Man is going to be involved. It's probably going to be one of the biggest roles. So, are you guys ready to see Doctor Doom up against that Spider-Man? Because you know they got to fight.
I mean, I think, you know, now that you say it out loud, it sounds like something that the Russo brothers and maybe Stephen McFeely might play with. They might actually amp that up, to a considerable degree, if and when these characters meet, which I'm pretty sure they will be. It might be something where, I don't know, Tom Holland Spider-Man believes Robert Downey Jr. led Doctor Doom is another character than he is. Maybe he's kind of desperate for that attachment. It's like, whoa, this isn't that character at all. They'll probably play it up for sure, and that'll be an interesting. Like our Gentum here says, that could actually create some interesting conflict for Holland Spider-Man. I do agree. I think that's a great point that Nolan Thunder just made, and I think it's something that they will play into to a considerable degree. I can see that in not too dissimilar of a way that they played around with the interdynamics between Captain America, Tony Stark's Iron Man and Black Widow and so forth. So I can see them doing something like that for sure. It's going to be fascinating. It's all about the execution. And I think a lot of people are hesitant about this because, like you said, Nolan, he is so synonymous with that Tony Stark character. He is so synonymous with the MCU as that Iron Man character. And so a lot of people just can't see him in the role. I believe even Gwyneth Paltrow, who plays Pepper Potts, was like, I don't get it. Is he a baddie now? Like, don't quite understand the leap here.
Nobody knows except the Russo brothers, and I hope they know.
Yeah.
I would think that they have a pretty good understanding. They did mention different masks, same task. I'm not sure quite what that means. Obviously, one of the things about Tony Stark's Iron Man was that he wanted a suit of armor around the world. He wanted to protect the world from threats before they even arrived, and obviously that got them into trouble, especially with Age of Ultron. So I can see kind of a Doctor Doom, who probably believes he's the hero of his own story, going down a similar path. I know that there is some connection between Doctor Doom and Tony Stark in the comic books and so forth, but we're gonna have to really see how this all shakes out, because I know a lot of people are they're a little hesitant about.
And you got to be careful how they do it. too. Of
Oh, yes.
course, this whole thing needs to be proceeded with caution, but it's like we're also playing into the factor of, in our personal theories, we're all sick of the multiverse. And we're trying to be like, okay, let's hope they don't do somewhere it's like alternate universe Tony Stark goes evil, and it's like, oh, there's Spider-Man meeting like alternate Tony, whatever. Deadpool memed on it, thankfully, throughout the whole movie, so hopefully the Russo brothers are smart. They won't go into that territory. In fact, hopefully they avoid multiverse like the plague, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. This isn't impossible. If there's one thing they're definitely doing right, I can give Disney credit on, is it definitely is making the headlines. It's different, you know? I'm seeing a lot of green all over my feed, and hopefully for them, it's giving green in their bank accounts.
Hopefully a lot of green all over the feed, that's for sure. I know, well, this channel participated in that as well. So sorry, guys. But
because you're doing a good job.
Well, that's there you go. WWE Pro also has some exclusive information regarding Robert Downey Jr.'s return. Maybe it's, you know, it's maybe not all that it seems. Like I said, there's a lot to this, but getting somebody of this caliber back involved with the MCU, it's a big deal, no matter how you slice it. Let's go ahead with some super chats right here, and then we're going to go ahead and sign us off with what Nolan and Lorena are doing. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and get to, is it Graph? Is it Graph Web? Sorry
Web.
about that. With $2, thank you so much. FFS cancel Disney Plus. Yeah, I know. It is bad. There's really no reason to have this service much anymore, because, and even if you're like a Disney fan, because a lot of the content that it has on there, it's been inundated with third-party content, or not Disney core content. Okay, we'll put it that way. A lot of National Geographic stuff. There's shows like The Acolyte that come out. I mean, it's just terrible. It's absolutely awful. The only reason that I have it is in order to keep up with a lot of this stuff, as obviously, we follow this stuff closely. But I got to be honest, if I wasn't with that Park Place Network, I wouldn't have it myself. There's just no compelling reason in order to have it, and maybe that's why they bundled it with not only Hulu but Max.
Yeah,
we'll see.
There's nothing. As I agree with you. I mean, I canceled Disney Plus. So I was like, I don't freaking want to watch the Acolyte. But if what I've been reading online is correct, D23 is going to be broadcasting select panels on Disney Plus. They are not going to be doing it on YouTube like they did last year. So unfortunately, I may have to pay for it for a month and cancel it again.
Wait, so when you canceled it last time, I need to know, Lorena. So it lets you, when you cancel it, it has a little like thing you can type out to let you know, like, hey, why are you leaving? Like any particular reason, And I was putting like, yeah, you ruined the Mandalorian, you ruined this. Like it was a satisfying experience. Did you?
Oh, I said the Acolyte was trash. That's what I said. I said the Acolyte is trash, and you need to bring back more good Disney content. Pull that stuff out of the freaking vault and put it on Disney Plus.
What she's excluding right now, audience, is the amount of profanity that was included. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah. Like that. Nope. Not ladylike. Can't say that.
Acolyte was enough to cancel your subscription. That is for sure. It was terrible, awful, and from what we understand with the ratings, it dropped off the top 10 immediately. But you know what?
There's no merch.
Bluey.
There's no merch in the parks for the Acolyte.
Did they even release sabers, Lorena?
No, I don't think there's even any sabers. I haven't seen any lines outside of Doc Ondar's. I have seen no Acolyte merchandise.
They didn't even have like the purple whip thing?
Nope. I would have bought that if I saw it, but no.
Well, they usually at least have the saber hilts from the characters that they introduced via these shows. They've done this multiple times with at least the Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni series, is not just in live action, but also the animation versions as well. And I believe we also got Jedi Fallen Order. His lightsaber was included as lightsaber hilt that you can actually buy. So the fact that we didn't even get those, that's crazy. I think it
That
really
shows
says
how
something about
much-
the confidence that Disney had.
Yeah, it shows how much of what we watch in these interviews is the bubble of Lucasfilm. Because if even the people at the parks are just like, no, then shows where the confidence was even before this came out.
I don't disagree. I think that's it's very accurate and a profound statement. Man, I cannot believe no merch, no nothing. And this thing, I don't know. This thing might get you know what? It might get willowed. I can see that happening.
If a Star Wars product gets full, I just can't see that happening because they are doing everything they can to make sure, even if it's in a bubble, in a Hollywood bubble, that Kathleen Kennedy goes out with an applaud, like, good job, you're retiring instead of being fired or whatever, when that day eventually comes, because she's not going to be there forever, obviously.
I think your contract expires in October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if that thing got willowed, that, even in their bubble, that's going to look bad. Like, I don't know, because I think even in the inner Hollywood circles, that would be something that, you kind of need a second glance at. Like, that seems like reputation. Like, ugh.
It is, but who would be affected? Here's the thing, if they did willow it, right? There's no real big time actors that maybe necessarily Disney would want to perhaps do business with going forward.
But what about Leslie? Don't they want to bring her back to direct a trilogy?
That's the thing, right? So it's kind of her work, and remember, she said, hey, if this thing fails, it's because of me. So I don't know, like, from an entertainment standpoint, like a relationship standpoint in Hollywood and that industry, maybe not the worst thing in the world. I mean, obviously, there would be people outraged on their behalf. Not saying that wouldn't happen, but at this point, do you just take the tax write-off? I think maybe.
Yeah, I guess that could actually be something Kathleen could do to make her image look better. It's like, you know what? I had a standard when I was at Lucasfilm. She didn't have a standard. And just be like, she could do the CEO thing, take none of the blame and just let everyone else take the
throw Leslie under the bus.
Yes, throw her under the Bespin
Millennium
speeder.
Falcon.
I don't know. Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good.
Oh no, I'm
right
picturing
there.
her throwing her into the Rancor pit in Return of the Jedi. Like Kathleen
Yes.
Oh man, that'd be awful.
Dispose of her. That's funny right there. GraphWeb, thank you so much for that $2 super chat. Definitely inspired some conversation indeed. Marty Snyder, always fire, but he says this show is fire. Well, thank you so much, Marty, with the $5. Do appreciate it. Great job as always. Well, honestly, I mean, I'm just a guy. It's really the people around me that make this possible, like Nolan Thunder, Lorena, just incredible people, content creators on their own right, but also part of the Park Place family. It is really, really cool to hang out with this amazing group of people. Includes Barry Place 28, Lou Washman's Ghost, everybody. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And I want to go ahead and give a shout out to Theme Park Wizard, who joined us for a little bit right there. Thank you so much for joining us in this chat right here. He actually had a conversation with Scott Gustin. Very interesting. Somebody we reference here all the time on That Park Place. Had a great conversation with him on his channel. Definitely go check it out because it is very, very interesting. The state of Disney, the parks, and what might be coming up on the horizon. Very, very cool. But Nolan, where can we go ahead and find you? Where you at?
All right, so you can find me on youtube.com at Nolan Thunder. I'll do this one more time because I've done this a few times the show. This is Slamfest 99. It was a event held in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was organized by Nintendo, and it was actually live streamed back in the 90s. But it got very little press coverage because there were some real-world tragedies going on. And now the event, no one can find it. There is no footage of it that has surfaced. I did a whole documentary on the backstory of this event and the impact it left behind it. And you can find it on my YouTube channel on my series Lost in the Files. It's called Slamfest 99, the documentary. So feel free to check it out. It is the most recent video on the channel. It's been doing a little low on the views there, but hopefully we can get that up a bit. And if you want to have some fun, check it out. It's a fun little watch.
fantastic. Sounds unbelievably interesting. Nolan Thunder does great work on his channel, and honestly is a great contributor not only to his channel, of course, and to you viewers directly, but also to making appearances all over That Park Place Network for your live streams. I know you're doing a lot of stuff with That Game Place, which is absolutely awesome. Very, very cool.
Amazing. Amazing people I work with there. Culture's been leading the charge, but it also got Jonas, Loki, Marvin. We got an amazing team there. Space Dave. In fact, speaking of the devil, he's right there. Space Dave's in the chat, and all of us there. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody because there's a lot of people on that, and we keep Spencer too. And it's been like the vibe of an arcade in the 90s. It's a lot of fun. We cover all the gaming news. So if you like gaming stuff, check out That Game Place. It's so much fun. Sorry to go long with the spiel, but I can't stress enough. That place is amazing.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much, Nolan. And I believe the long for content, the Lost Guys, will be making appearances on this channel specifically. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. But Lorena, I can't tell you how appreciative I am that you provided us your time here. Thank you so much for gracing us. It is always a delight that I echo Lou's comments before. You make this show for sure. Lorena, where can we find you?
Oh, well, thank you. I love being here. I love being here with you guys. Folks, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on X. And of course, you can find me here on YouTube for various videos and live streams on my channel. Let's see. As for stuff that's coming up. Oh, yeah. So tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern is the Spice Lounge, where I gather with some friends and special guests. So hopefully Vash will be able to make it, where we give you those hot takes and spicy conversation around current pop culture topics. And of course, the big one this week, can Robert Downey Jr. and the Russos rescue Disney out of the hole that they are in? And of course, we've got hot topics as well to talk about. On Thursday, I will be streaming live from Universal Orlando, streaming the Mega Movie Parade, which is really, really awesome. So that's going to start at 5:45 p.m. Going to be streaming from the VIP area just for Universal Pass holders. So we get the best view of the parade. And of course, I'm going to bring my Jurassic Park bubble wand, which will interact with the floats. So you can see how that all works. And Saturday at 12 noon is my weekly in-studio theme park show. Of course, you guys bring all your questions. I try to give you guys answers, and we really are going to be talking about the last announcement for Epic Universe, which is the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So we're going to talk about that in depth, and also bring your questions about planning for Epic Universe, because it is definitely not too early to start planning your visit.
Yes, definitely. I will be definitely going on the Spice Lounge. My appearances haven't been as regular as they have been previously because we were covering the Acolyte. What would happen is I'd be on the Acolyte after party. I would then edit the Acolyte after party, starting at 2 a.m. in order to get that 6:30 a.m. drop for this channel right here. Man. It was a lot, and so that would kind of take me out of the game a little bit on Wednesdays. But should be back on the Spice Lounge. Love attending that show with you, Lorena, and also too. Speaking of the last drop for Epic Universe, yes, the Harry Potter section of that theme park will be debuting tomorrow, Wednesday. That's July 31st, and I believe it's an anniversary year for the Harry Potter franchise. I think it's like the 30th year anniversary, something like that.
I know they're dropping the announcement on Harry Potter's birthday.
Harry Potter's birthday. Okay. There you go. That's the one. Well, it's going to be huge. I believe we're going to be doing a special live stream tomorrow night, obviously following the Spice Lounge, on That Park Place. I had to coordinate with Jonas a little bit. I believe that was the plan. But stay tuned for that. Obviously, subscribe to not only That Park Place channel for updates, but also to the Twitter account. We'll have everything there for sure for you. Definitely subscribe to Lorena. Definitely subscribe to Nolan Thunder. They are just absolutely great content creators. I'll go ahead and share these channels in the chat right here.
Well, yep, subscribe to That Park Place.
Yes, subscribe to that Park Place. Subscribe to That Pod Place or T3PO, That Park Place Podcast Online. It's going over a rebrand here shortly, but T3PO for now. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you like this video, please like this video. Share us out, as it helps us out tremendously against the YouTube algorithm. That sneaky YouTube algorithm just playing nonsense games with us. Why? It's so frustrating. But thank you so much, folks, for joining us today. And yeah, well, we will see you next time here, always at 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern on Tuesdays. And stay tuned for more updates from That Park Place. Obviously going live at noon on Thursdays, but we might be going live tomorrow to cover this amazing drop, which we know is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. We will talk to you later.